She froze when she saw him walk into her diner, the man she thought was dead for 8 years. But when a 7-year-old boy ran in calling her mom, the mafia boss saw his own gray eyes staring back at him. What he didn't know, coming back for answers would put them all in the crosshairs of the one family that never forgives. The bell above the diner door hadn't changed its sound in 8 years. Marco DeLuca heard it chime as he pushed through, and for a moment, he was 26 again, young, reckless, and stupidly in love with a girl who made the best apple pie on the eastern seaboard. Now he was 34, with a scar across his ribs from a knife that was meant to finish the job, and eyes that had seen too much to ever look young again. The diner was smaller than he remembered. Everything was smaller when you came back from the dead. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the dead zone between lunch and dinner. Only 2 customers sat in the far corner booth, an elderly couple sharing a slice of pie. The jukebox in the corner played something old and sad, probably Patsy Cline. The black and white checkered floor still had that same crack near the counter. And there she was. Eva Moretti stood behind the counter, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans with a blue apron tied around her waist. She was wiping down the coffee machine, her movements practiced and efficient. She hadn't seen him yet. Marco's hand instinctively went to his jacket pocket, feeling the outline of the cigarette pack he'd bought at a gas station in Delaware but hadn't opened. Old habits. He'd quit smoking the day he went into hiding. Started again yesterday, when he decided to come back. He took 3 steps toward the counter before she turned around. Their eyes met. The coffee pot in her hand didn't fall. Eva had always had steady hands, but her knuckles went white around the handle. Her face drained of color, then flushed red, then went pale again, all in the span of 3 seconds. "Hello, Eva," Marco said quietly. She set the coffee pot down very carefully, like it was made of nitroglycerin. Her chest rose and fell with a sharp breath. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "You're dead." "I was," Marco said. "Didn't take." Eva's eyes darted to the elderly couple, then to the kitchen door behind her, then back to Marco. Not surprised he was alive. That would have looked different. This was something else. This was fear. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice tight. "I know." "Then why?" "I wanted to see you." The honesty surprised even him. "Before I left for good. I'm heading to California tomorrow. New name, new life. I had to see you first." Eva's jaw clenched. 8 years ago, she used to cry when she was angry. Now she just looked at him with those dark brown eyes that had once made him believe he could be something other than what his last name demanded. "You look good," Marco offered, immediately regretting how stupid it sounded. "Don't," Eva said sharply. "Don't you dare come in here with your—" She stopped herself, glancing again at the elderly couple. She lowered her voice. "You left. You disappeared. Do you have any idea what that was like?" "I know. Eva, I know. But they were going to kill me. My own cousin put the contract out. It was Antonio, Carlo, and Vince. They wanted to take over the family operations, and I was in the way. If I'd stayed—" "You could have told me," her voice cracked. "You could have said goodbye. If I'd contacted you, they would have used you to find me. You know how it works. You grew up in this world same as me." Eva looked away, blinking hard. "I got out of that world." "I can see that." Marco gestured at the diner. "This place suits you. You always talked about owning your own restaurant. It's not a restaurant. It's a diner. There's a difference. Still counts." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The jukebox switched songs. The elderly man in the corner booth coughed softly. "Coffee?" Eva asked finally, her voice flat. "Yeah." "Black." She poured it without looking at him, her movements mechanical. When she set the cup down on the counter, their fingers almost touched. She pulled back like she'd been burned. Marco wrapped his hands around the warm ceramic. "How've you been?" "Really
Busy.
The diner keeps me occupied." "You seeing anyone?" Her eyes flashed. "That's none of your business." "Fair enough. Eva crossed her arms, leaning back against the counter behind her. So, California, huh? What's out there? Nothing. That's the point. Marco sipped his coffee. Still too hot, but he drank it anyway. Fresno, maybe. Or Sacramento. Somewhere flat and boring where nobody knows what a DeLuca is. And you came all the way here just to tell me that. I came to apologize, Marco said. For leaving the way I did. For everything. Eva's expression softened, just barely. Marco. The bell above the door chimed. Both of them froze. Marco's hand moved instinctively toward his waistband, but he'd left the gun in his car. Stupid. 8 years away, and he'd gotten sloppy. But it wasn't a threat. It was a kid. A boy, maybe 7 years old, wearing a blue backpack with dinosaurs on it and sneakers that lit up when he walked. He had dark, messy hair and olive skin, and he was grinning as he pushed through the door.
Mom,
guess what happened at school? The boy stopped mid-sentence when he saw Marco. Marco stared at the kid. The kid stared back. And Marco felt the ground drop out from under him. Because the boy had gray eyes. Not brown like Eva's. Not dark like most Italian kids.
Gray.
Sharp, pale gray. The exact same shade Marco saw every morning in the mirror. Luca, honey, Eva said quickly, her voice too bright, too forced. Why don't you go put your backpack in the office? I'll make you a snack in a minute. But, Mom, I wanted to tell you about.
Luca, now.
Please. The boy, Luca, looked between his mother and Marco, sensing the tension even if he didn't understand it. Okay, he said slowly. He walked past the counter, disappearing through the kitchen door. Marco couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
7 years old. Gray eyes. He looked at Eva, and the expression on her face told him everything he needed to know. Outside, Eva said quietly.
Now.
She untied her apron with shaking hands, called toward the kitchen. Marie, can you watch the floor for 5 minutes? And walked toward the front door without waiting to see if Marco followed.
He did.
They stood in the parking lot between a beat-up Honda and a pickup truck. The afternoon sun was bright and unforgiving. Eva wrapped her arms around herself despite the warmth. Say it, Marco said, his voice hoarse. Eva looked at him, and her eyes were shining with tears she refused to let fall. His name is Luca Antonio Moretti, she said. He's 7 years old. He likes dinosaurs, baseball, and mac and cheese. He's afraid of thunder, but not spiders. He's the smartest kid in his class. She took a shaky breath. And yes, Marco. He's yours. The world tilted. Marco DeLuca had survived a coup, 3 assassination attempts, and 8 years in hiding. But nothing had prepared him for this. Marco's knees felt weak. He pressed his palm against the hood of Eva's Honda, needing something solid to hold onto. 7 years old, he repeated, his voice distant. You were pregnant when I left. I found out 2 weeks after you disappeared. Eva's voice was steady now, like she'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in her head. I took 3 tests. All positive. I sat in my bathroom crying, trying to figure out how to tell you, and then I turned on the news and saw that they'd found your car in the river. Burned out. They said you were dead. Eva. Don't, she held up her hand. Let me finish. I mourned you, Marco. I buried an empty casket. Your mother held my hand at the funeral and cried on my shoulder, and the whole time I had your baby growing inside me, and I couldn't tell anyone because if the wrong people found out, she trailed off, wiping her eyes roughly. Antonio was already cleaning house. Anyone loyal to you was disappearing. I wasn't stupid enough to think a pregnant girlfriend would get a pass. Marco felt sick. You went through it alone. My Aunt Teresa helped. She moved me out here, to Bellport. Far enough from the city that no one would look twice at another single mother running a diner. Eva laughed bitterly. Your family probably doesn't even remember I exist. They'd remember if they knew about Luca. That's exactly why I never told them. Eva stepped closer, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. Do you understand what would have happened? Even if you were dead, they would have taken him, raised him to be the next DeLuca heir, turned him into everything you tried to escape. I couldn't let that happen. Marco ran his hands through his hair, his mind racing. When I went into hiding, I had people watching the city. Eyes and ears. If you'd reached out. To who? Your cousin who tried to kill you? Your uncle who looked the other way? I didn't know who to trust, Marco, so I trusted no one. Eva's voice cracked. Every single day for 8 years, I've looked over my shoulder. Every time a black car drives past the diner, I wonder if today's the day they figure it out. Every time Luca mentions his gray eyes or asks why he doesn't look like me, I have to lie and tell him he looks like his grandfather. Does he know about me at all? He knows his father was a good man who died before he was born. That's it. That's all I could give him. Marco looked back toward the diner. Through the window, he could see Luca sitting at the counter now, eating a cookie, his legs swinging. Just a normal kid. Innocent. Untouched by the violence that had shaped Marco's entire life. I need to meet him, Marco said. Properly. Absolutely not. Eva, he's my son. He's my son. Eva's eyes blazed. I'm the one who sat up with him when he had colic. I'm the one who taught him to read. I'm the one who worked double shifts to keep this diner running, so he could have a roof over his head and clothes on his back. You don't get to walk in here after 8 years and claim him like he's some kind of prize. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing, Marco? You said you're leaving for California tomorrow. You came here to say goodbye and then disappear again. Well, congratulations, you got your closure. Now go. I can't. The words came out raw, unfiltered. Not now. Not after seeing him. You have to. Eva grabbed his arm, desperation replacing anger. Marco, listen to me. If you stay, if people see you with us, if anyone makes the connection. No one knows I'm here. I've been careful. You think you're the only one being careful? There are still people in the city who'd pay good money for information on you. The Bernini family never forgot that you testified against their operation before you disappeared. They've got long memories and longer reach. Marco's blood ran cold. The Berninis are still operating? They took over half your family's territory after Antonio's crew fell apart. There was a war, Marco. 3 years of bloodshed. The Berninis came out on top. Eva's grip tightened. And Rocco Bernini, you remember him? He moved out here 6 months ago. He's been running a protection racket on all the small businesses on the waterfront. Has he touched you? I pay him $200 a month to leave us alone. It's cheaper than hiring security and easier than fighting. Eva's voice was defeated. That's how I survive now. I keep my head down, I pay what I owe, and I keep Luca far away from anything that smells like the life we left behind. $200 a month, Marco's jaw clenched. That bastard is extorting you. That bastard is keeping us alive. Don't you dare go after him. Don't you dare bring that violence back into our lives. Marco looked at Eva, really looked at her. The woman he'd loved 8 years ago had been soft, full of dreams and laughter. This Eva was harder, carved out of necessity and fear. She'd survived because she had to. Because of Luca. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For all of it. Eva's shoulders sagged. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change anything. You need to leave, Marco. Before someone recognizes you. Before this gets complicated. But it was already too late for that. Through the diner window, Luca was staring out at them, his gray eyes curious and confused. And Marco knew, with absolute certainty, that walking away from his son was impossible. Marco drove past the diner 3 times before parking 2 blocks away. He'd told Eva he'd leave town. Promised her he wouldn't complicate things. But that was before he'd looked into his son's eyes and felt something shift in his chest, something he didn't know he was still capable of feeling. He couldn't leave. Not yet. For 2 days, he stayed in a motel on the edge of Bellport, paying cash and using a fake name. He told himself he just needed time to think, to process everything. But the truth was simpler and more selfish. He wanted to see Luca again. On the 3rd morning, he sat in his car across from Luca's elementary school, watching parents drop off their kids. He spotted Eva's Honda pulling up at 8:15. Luca jumped out, his dinosaur backpack bouncing, and waved goodbye to his mother before running toward the playground. Marco watched him play, watched him laugh with other kids, watched him live a normal, beautiful, uncomplicated life. And he wanted, desperately, dangerously, to be part of it. He didn't notice the black Escalade until it was too late. It pulled up beside his car, blocking him in. Two men got out. Marco recognized the one in the expensive suit immediately. Rocco Bernini. He'd put on weight since Marco last saw him, his face rounder, his hair slicked back with too much gel. But the eyes were the same, cold, calculating, and mean. Rocco tapped on Marco's window with his knuckles, grinning. Marco rolled it down slowly, his hand moving to the gun in his glove compartment. Well, Rocco said, leaning down. His cologne was overpowering.
Marco de Luca.
Back from the dead. That's quite a magic trick. Rocco, you're looking prosperous. Business is good. Real good. Especially out here in the sticks. Rocco glanced toward the school, then back at Marco. His grin widened. Funny place to be sitting at 8 in the morning. Unless you got a kid in there. Marco's heart stopped, but his face remained blank. Just passing through. Thought I'd stop and appreciate the ocean view. Ocean's the other direction, Marco. Then I'm lost. Rocco laughed. A wet, ugly sound. You know what I think? I think you're watching someone. And I think I know who. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos. See, I make it my business to know everyone in my territory. Every business owner, every resident, every single mother who might need protection. He turned the phone toward Marco. It was a photo of Eva and Luca standing outside the diner. Marco's blood turned to ice. Pretty lady, Rocco continued casually. Got a cute kid too. 7 years old. Strange thing though, kids got these gray eyes. Real distinctive. Reminded me of someone, but I couldn't put my finger on it. He paused, studying Marco's face. Until now. Leave them alone, Marco said quietly. Or what? You gonna start a war? You're one man, Marco. No family, no crew, no protection. Meanwhile, I got the whole Bernini organization behind me. My Uncle Sal runs half the eastern seaboard now. You remember Uncle Sal, don't you? He still talks about how you testified against him 10 years ago. Got him 3 years in federal prison. That was a different life. Yeah, well, Sal's got a long memory. Rocco straightened up, adjusting his suit jacket. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna make a phone call. Gonna tell my uncle that the famous Marco De Luca is alive and well in Bellport. And that he's got a son. You know what Uncle Sal's gonna do with that information? Marco's hand tightened on the gun in the glove compartment. He's gonna want to meet the kid, Rocco continued. Raise him proper. Make sure he learns the family business. And you're gonna disappear again.
Permanently this time.
Or Rocco leaned back down, his voice dropping to a whisper. Or you can make this easy. Give me $50,000, and I'll forget I ever saw you. You can drive away, and your ex and your kid stay safe. Nobody needs to know you were here. I don't have 50,000. Then you better figure it out fast. You got 48 hours. Rocco knocked on the car roof twice. Clock's ticking, dead man. He walked back to the Escalade, laughing. The vehicle pulled away, leaving Marco alone with his rage and fear. Marco sat there for 10 minutes, his mind racing through options. All of them bad. If he ran, Rocco would tell the Berninis anyway, out of spite or boredom or just because he could. Eva and Luca would become leverage, tools to draw Marco out of hiding. If he paid, Rocco would just come back for more. Blackmailers always did. If he killed Rocco, the Berninis would send an army. There was no clean way out of this. Marco started the car and drove back to his motel, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He'd spent 8 years running from his past. But his past had finally caught up. And this time, it wasn't just his life on the line. He pulled out his phone and stared at a number he hadn't called in 3 years. The only person from his old life he still trusted.
Alessio Greco.
Former accountant for the De Luca family. The man who'd helped Marco disappear.
Marco Daiel.
After 3 rings, a familiar voice answered. I thought you were dead.
I was, Marco said.
Now I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind that might get us both killed. Alessio arrived the next morning in a beat-up Toyota that looked nothing like the luxury cars he used to drive. He'd lost weight, grown a beard, and wore glasses that made him look like a college professor instead of a mob accountant. They met at a coffee shop 3 towns over from Belport. You look terrible, Alessio said, sitting down across from Marco. You look like a librarian. That's the point, Alessio sipped his coffee. So, you gonna tell me why you're suddenly making noise after 8 years of silence? I thought we agreed. No contact unless it was life or death. It's life or death. Marco told him everything.
Eva. Luca.
Rocco. The 48-hour deadline that had already burned down to 36. Alessio listened without interrupting, his face growing grimmer with each detail. You got a kid, he said finally. Jesus Marco. I know. And Rocco Bernini knows. I know. So, what's your play here? You can't pay him. You don't have the money. You can't kill him. That brings the whole organization down on you. And you can't run because now they know exactly how to hurt you. Marco stared into his coffee. I need time. Time to figure out a permanent solution.
Permanent solution requiert l'ouvrage.
What do you got? Nothing. That's why I called you. Alessio leaned back, thinking. I still have the files. Everything I copied before I disappeared. Financial records, wire transfers, names, dates. Enough dirt to bury half the Bernini operation if it got into the right hands. The feds? Maybe. But that takes time, lawyers, negotiations, witness protection. You've got 36 hours, not 36 weeks. Marco rubbed his face. So what do I do? Sit here and wait for Rocco to ruin their lives? No, Alessio said quietly. You do what you should have done 8 years ago. You stop running. Easy for you to say. I'm not saying fight them head-on. I'm saying be smart. Get close to your son. Let Eva see you're serious about staying. Build something worth fighting for, and then, when Rocco makes his move, we'll be ready. That's not a plan. That's hope. Sometimes hope's all you got. Alessio stood up. I'll start making calls. Feel out some old contacts, see who might be willing to flip on the Berninis. But Marco? Don't waste these hours. If this goes sideways, you might not get another chance. That afternoon, Marco went back to the diner. Eva was behind the counter, pouring coffee for a truck driver. When she saw Marco walk in, her expression shifted from surprise to anger to resignation. I told you to leave, she said quietly when he sat down at the counter. I can't.
Marco.
Rocco knows about Luca. He saw me watching the school. He's putting it together, Eva. Whether I leave or stay, he knows. The color drained from Eva's face.
No. 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 No.
I'm handling it. I've got someone working on a solution. But in the meantime, Marco hesitated. I want to spend time with him. With Luca. Just a few days. Let me be his father. Even if he doesn't know it yet. Eva's eyes filled with tears. You're asking me to let you into his life when everything might explode around us? I'm asking for a chance to know my son before I lose that chance forever. Eva looked away, her jaw trembling. Finally, she nodded once. He gets out of school at 3. There's a park 2 blocks from here. He goes there most days after homework. Thank you. Don't make me regret this. Marco found Luca at the park that afternoon, struggling with a red kite that refused to fly. Need some help. Marco called out. Luca turned, recognizing him from the diner. It won't go up. The wind's all wrong. Mind if I take a look? Luca handed him the kite. Marco examined the tail, too short and unevenly weighted. See this? The tail's what keeps it stable. Right now, it's trying to spin instead of fly. Can you fix it?
Sure.
You got anything we can use? String, ribbon, maybe some cloth. Luca dug through his backpack and produced a long blue scarf. Will this work? Perfect. They worked together, Marco tying the scarf to the kite's tail in careful intervals. Luca watched intently, asking questions. What's the best wind speed? Why does the tail matter? How high can kites go? Marco answered each one patiently, surprised by how easy it felt. How natural. When they finally launched the kite, it soared, catching the wind and climbing higher and higher until it was just a red against the blue sky. Luca laughed, pure and delighted. It's flying. It's actually flying. You did good, kid. We did good, Luca corrected. He looked up at Marco, squinting against the sun. What's your name, anyway?
Marco. I've Luca.
I know. They flew the kite until the sun started setting, turning the sky orange and gold. When Eva's Honda pulled into the parking lot, Luca waved enthusiastically.
Mom.
Mom, look. Marco fixed my kite. Eva got out of the car slowly, her eyes on Marco. He couldn't read her expression, somewhere between grateful and terrified. That's great, honey, she said. Say, thank you to Marco. Thank you.
Luca grinned.
Can you come back tomorrow? We could fly it even higher. Marco looked at Eva. She gave him the smallest nod. Yeah, Marco said, his throat tight. I'd like that. As they drove away, Luca waving from the back seat, Marco stood alone in the empty park. For the first time in 8 years, he felt like he had something real to fight for. And he'd burn the whole Bernini organization to the ground before he let them take it away. For 3 days, Marco existed in a strange, fragile bubble of normalcy. He walked Luca home from school, helped him with his math homework at the diner, ate dinner with him and Eva, meatloaf on Tuesday, spaghetti on Wednesday, chicken parmesan on Thursday. Each meal felt like borrowed time, stolen from a life he was never supposed to have. Luca warmed to him quickly, the way kids do when they find an adult who actually listens. He talked about dinosaurs, about his friend Tyler, who could burp the alphabet, about how he wanted to be a marine biologist when he grew up. Marco memorized every detail. The way Luca's nose crinkled when he laughed. How he always ate his vegetables first to get them over with the small scar on his elbow from falling off his bike last summer. 8 years of his son's life, lost. Marco was determined not to lose another second. Eva watched them together with an expression Marco couldn't quite decipher, part wonder, part worry, part something that looked almost like the love she used to have for him. On Thursday night, after Luca went home with Eva, Marco stayed behind to help close the diner. They worked in comfortable silence, wiping down tables and stacking chairs. He likes you, Eva said finally. A lot. I like him too. Eva, he's incredible. I know, she smiled softly. He's the best thing I ever did. We ever did, Marco corrected gently. Eva's smile faded. Marco, what's happening here? What are we doing? I don't know, but it feels right. It felt right 8 years ago too. And then you were gone. I'm not going anywhere. Not this time. You can't promise that. Not with Rocco. The bell above the door chimed. They both turned. Rocco Bernini walked in, flanked by 2 men Marco didn't recognize. Both wore expensive suits that didn't hide the bulges of shoulder holsters underneath. Sorry, we're closed, Eva said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. That's all right, sweetheart. This won't take long. Rocco's smile was all teeth. He looked at Marco. Time's up, dead man. Where's my money? I told you, I don't have it. Then we got a problem. Rocco walked slowly around the diner, running his finger along the counter. See, I made some calls. Talked to my Uncle Sal. Told him about the situation. You know what he said? Marco said nothing. He said, bring me the kid, said he'd raise him proper. Teach him the business. Make him a real Bernini, since the DeLuca name don't mean shit anymore. Rocco stopped in front of Eva. So here's the new deal. You give us the boy, and we let you both live. Simple. Eva's face went white. Get out of my diner. Your diner? Rocco laughed. Sweetheart, nothing in this town belongs to you. It all belongs to us. We just let you pretend it's yours. Touch her again, and I'll break your hand, Marco said quietly. Rocco turned, amused. You threatening me? Here?
Now.
He gestured to his men. I got 2 guys with me. You're alone. Plus, you make a move, and Eva here becomes collateral damage. That what you want? Marco's hands clenched into fists, but he didn't move. That's what I thought. Rocco walked toward the door, then paused. You got 24 hours to bring the kid to the warehouse on Miller Street. Show up with him, and this ends clean. Nobody gets hurt.
Don't show up, he shrugged.
Well, accidents happen. Kids get snatched from playgrounds. Single mothers get robbed walking to their cars. Would be a shame. Rocco, Marco's voice was ice. You made a mistake coming here. Yeah? What mistake is that? You reminded me why I left this life. And why I'm going to end yours. Rocco's smile faltered for just a second. Then he laughed again, more force this time. Big words from a dead man. 24 hours, Marco. Clock's ticking. He left, his men following. The moment the door closed, Eva collapsed against the counter, her whole body shaking. Marco moved to her, putting his hands on her shoulders.
Hey.
Hey, look at me. We're not giving him Luca. That's not happening. Then what are we doing? What's the plan, Marco? Because right now, all I see is my son getting dragged into your world, and I can't. Her voice broke. I can't lose him. You won't. I promise you won't. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Marco turned her to face him, his hands gentle but firm. Listen to me. I have someone working on this. Alessio, you remember him? He's got evidence. Files that could bring down the whole Bernini operation. We just need a little more time. We don't have time. You heard him. 24 hours. Then we buy more time. We stall. We play it smart. Eva looked at him with exhausted, desperate eyes. And if that doesn't work? Marco thought about his son flying a kite in the park. About the way Lucas smiled when Marco called him champ. About the life this boy deserved. A life free from fear and violence and men like Rocco Bernini. Then I do what I should have done 8 years ago, Marco said. I stop running and I fight. That's what I'm afraid of. Eva's voice was barely a whisper. Last time you fought, you died. Last time, I didn't have anything worth fighting for. He pulled her into his arms, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him hold her. Outside, a car engine started. Rocco was gone, but his shadow remained, dark and threatening, over everything Marco loved. Marco didn't sleep that night. He sat in his motel room, his gun disassembled on the bed, cleaning each piece methodically, while his mind raced through scenarios. Every plan ended the same way, with someone dead or Luca in danger. At 6 a.m., Alessio called. I've got something, he said without preamble. There's a federal prosecutor in Manhattan, Jennifer Hawkins. She's been building a case against the Berninis for 2 years. If we give her what I have, she can move fast. Warrants, raids, arrests. But she needs one thing. What? A witness. Someone who can testify to active criminal activity. Someone they can't discredit or ignore.
Me, Marco said. You.
But Marco, if you do this, if you testify again, there's no going back. You'll need protection. Real witness protection, not just hiding. And Eva and Luca. They'd have to come with me.
Yeah.
New identities. New lives. All of you. Marco looked out the motel window at the gray morning sky. How long would it take? To set up? A week, maybe 2. To take down the Berninis?
Months.
Maybe a year. Rocco wants Luca in 20 hours. Alessio swore. Then we need to stall him. Make him think you're cooperating. Or we make him disappear.
Marco.
I'm not letting him take my son, Alessio. There was a long pause. I'll keep working on the federal angle.
You.
Try not to start a war before I get there. Marco hung up and headed to the diner. Eva was already there, preparing for the morning rush. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying or lack of sleep. probably both.
We need to tell him, Marco said.
Eva's hand froze over the coffee machine. What?
Luca.
We need to tell him the truth.
About me.
About what's happening. Are you insane? He's 7 years old, Marco. He doesn't need to know about. He needs to know why his life might change. Why we might have to leave. Why strange men might be asking questions about him. Marco moved closer. Eva, if something goes wrong, if Rocco makes a move before we're ready, Luca needs to understand enough to be careful. He's a child. This will terrify him. Keeping him in the dark will terrify him more when it matters. Eva pressed her hands against the counter, her shoulders shaking. I wanted to protect him from this.
From you.
From all of it. I know. And you did. You gave him 7 years of normal. But normal's over now. We tell him together, or we risk him finding out the worst possible way. Eva was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded just once. After school. At home. Not here. Eva's apartment was small. 2 bedrooms above a hardware store, with worn furniture and walls covered in Luca's drawings. It smelled like vanilla candles and laundry detergent. Luca sat on the couch between them, sensing something was wrong. He'd been chattering about his day on the walk home, but now he was quiet, his gray eyes moving between his mother and Marco. Am I in trouble? He asked finally. No, baby. No, you're not in trouble. Eva took his hand. We just need to talk to you about something important. Okay. Eva looked at Marco, her eyes pleading for him to take the lead. Marco knelt in front of Luca, putting them at eye level. His heart was hammering so hard, he thought it might break through his ribs. Luca, he began, his voice rough. Your mom told you that your father died before you were born. That was true, sort of. I did disappear. People thought I was dead, but I wasn't. Luca's eyes widened. You're my dad. Yeah, buddy. I am. Luca looked at Eva. Mom? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. It's true, honey. Luca turned back to Marco, his small face processing this impossible information. But you've been here. You helped me fly my kite. You walked me home from school. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's complicated. And dangerous. I disappeared because some bad men wanted to hurt me. I thought if I stayed away, you and your mom would be safe. I thought that was the right thing to do, Marco's voice cracked. I was wrong. I should have been here. I should have been your dad from the beginning. And I'm so sorry I wasn't. Luca was quiet, his eyes searching Marco's face. Looking for lies. Looking for truth. Did you leave because you didn't love us? He asked, his voice small. No, Marco put his hands on Luca's shoulders. God, no. I left because I loved you. Because I didn't want you growing up in the world I came from. I wanted you to be safe and happy and normal. I wanted you to be exactly who you are. But you're back now. I'm back now. Are you leaving again? Marco looked at Eva, then back at Luca. Not if I can help it. But those bad men I told you about? They found out about you. About us. And we might have to go away for a while. Somewhere safe. All 3 of us. Luca absorbed this, his face serious in a way no 7-year-old should be. Then, without warning, he threw his arms around Marco's neck. I don't want you to leave again, he whispered. Marco held his son for the first time, really held him, and felt something inside his chest shatter and rebuild itself simultaneously. I'm not going anywhere, champ. I promise. Eva joined them, wrapping her arms around them both, and for one perfect moment, they were a family. Then Marco's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, warehouse. Midnight. Bring the boy, or we come get him. The moment shattered like glass. Marco stared at the text, his jaw clenched, so tight his teeth ached. Eva saw his expression. What is it? He showed her the phone. Her face went pale. Midnight. That's only 6 hours. I know. Marco, what are we going to do? Luca looked between them, confusion and fear mixing in his gray eyes. What's happening? Marco put his phone away and forced his voice to stay calm. Nothing you need to worry about, buddy. Your mom and I are handling it. He looked at Eva. Pack a bag. Essentials only. Be ready to move in 30 minutes. Move where? Somewhere safe. Away from here. We can't just run. We're not running. We're buying time. Marco stood, his mind already 3 steps ahead. Alessio has a safe house 2 hours north. We get you and Luca there, then I deal with Rocco. Deal with him how? Marco didn't answer. He didn't need to. Even knew what deal with meant in his world. No, she said firmly. No, you're not going back to that. You're not becoming that person again. I never stopped being that person, Eva. I just pretended for 8 years. Marco's voice was hard. These men don't understand reason. They don't negotiate. They take what they want and they hurt anyone who gets in their way. If I don't stop Rocco now, he'll never stop coming after us. Then we go to the police. And tell them what? That a mobster sent me a threatening text. They'll ask questions we can't answer. Questions about who I am, why he's targeting us. By the time they sort it out, Rocco will have already made his move. Eva's hands trembled. There has to be another way. There is, said a voice from the doorway. They both spun around. Alessio stood there, holding a laptop bag and looking exhausted. Sorry, the door was unlocked. Old habit, I knocked, but you didn't hear. How did you? You said Eva's Diner in Bellport. There's only one diner in this town. Alessio stepped inside, closing the door behind him. We need to talk. All of us. 10 minutes later, Luca was in his bedroom with headphones on, playing a video game with the volume turned up. The adults sat around Eva's small kitchen table. Alessio opened his laptop. I've been digging. The Berninis are vulnerable right now, more than they've been in years. Sal Bernini's under federal investigation for tax evasion. His nephew Tony just flipped on him to save himself from a weapons charge. The organization is fractured. That doesn't help us tonight, Marco said. Actually, it does. Because Rocco. Alessio pulled up a photo.
He's desperate.
He's been skimming from the family for months. His uncle doesn't know yet, but when he finds out, which he will, Rocco's a dead man walking. That's why he needs you. What do you mean? Think about it. Rocco doesn't want $50,000. He wants leverage. Something he can bring to Sal Bernini to prove his worth. And what's better than delivering Marco De Luca, the guy who testified against the family and his son? Eva's breath hitched. So, this was never about money. It was always about survival. Rocco's survival. Alessio turned the laptop toward Marco. Which means we can use that against him.
How?
We give him what he wants. Sort of. Alessio pulled up another file. Financial records, emails, photographs. I've got everything here. Every dollar Rocco stole. Every deal he made behind Sal's back. Every lie he told. We give this to Sal Bernini, and Rocco becomes the target instead of you. Marco leaned back, processing. You want to turn the family against itself. I want to redirect their attention. While they're cleaning up their own mess, we get the federal prosecutor involved. Jennifer Hawkins is ready to move. She just needs a witness and these files. We give her both, and the entire Bernini operation falls apart within weeks. And what happens to us while we wait 4 weeks? Eva's voice was sharp. Rocco wants Luca at midnight. Even if we redirect Sal's attention, Rocco might still come after us out of spite. Alessio nodded grimly. That's why we need insurance. Marco, you're going to meet Rocco tonight. What? At the warehouse like he wants. But you're not bringing Luca. You're bringing me and a recording device. We get Rocco on tape, threatening you, admitting to extortion, talking about kidnapping a child. Then we have everything we need, evidence for the feds and proof for Sal Bernini that his nephew is a liability. Marco shook his head. He'll search me. He's not stupid. He won't search me. I'll come in after you. Pretend I'm delivering the money. Former accountant trying to help an old friend. He'll believe it. And if he doesn't? Alessio met his eyes. Then we improvise. But Marco, this is our shot. We take Rocco down tonight, hand everything to the feds tomorrow, and by next week, You and Eva and Luca are in witness protection with new identities and a real future. Eva looked at Marco, her eyes desperate. Is this going to work? I don't know, Marco admitted. But it's the best chance we've got. What if something goes wrong? What if Rocco doesn't fall for it? Then I do what I came back here to do. Marco's voice was quiet but certain. I protect my family, whatever it takes. Eva reached across the table and took his hand. Don't die on me again, Marco. I mean it. Luca just got you back. I just got you back. I'm not going anywhere, he squeezed her hand. Trust me. Alessio closed his laptop. We've got 5 hours. Let's get ready. Marco stood, looking toward Luca's bedroom door. His son was in there, safe for now, playing games and not knowing that his entire future hung in the balance. Marco would walk into hell itself to keep it that way. And tonight, he just might have to. At 10 p.m., Marco's phone rang. Alessio was in the bathroom, checking the recording equipment one more time. Eva sat on the couch, her knee bouncing nervously, checking on Luca every 5 minutes, even though he was sound asleep in his room.
Marco answered.
Yeah. Change of plans. Rocco's voice was oily with satisfaction. Warehouse is too public. Too many eyes. We're meeting at the old Riverside Marina instead. Pier 7. You know it.
Marco's gut twisted.
The marina was isolated, abandoned for 3 years after a fire gutted the main building.
No witnesses.
No security cameras. Perfect for making someone disappear. I know it.
Good.
Midnight. Just you and the kid. Anyone else shows up, and things get messy. I need more time. You're out of time, Marco. Be there, or I send my guys to that little apartment on Hudson Street. They'll get the kid themselves, and your girlfriend won't be so pretty when they're done with her. The line went dead. Marco stood there, phone in his hand, rage burning through his veins like gasoline. Alessio emerged from the bathroom, reading Marco's expression immediately. What happened? He changed the location.
Riversi de Marina.
And he knows where Eva lives. Eva's face drained of color. He knows where we live. How? He's been watching us. Probably since the first day I showed up. Marco ran his hands through his hair. He's smart. Smarter than I gave him credit for. Then we call it off, Eva said quickly. We take Luca and run.
Right now.
We just disappear. Eva.
No, Marco.
This is too dangerous. If he's been watching us, if he knows where we live, then he's already 3 steps ahead. We can't beat him. We can, Alessio interjected. The plan still works. Actually, the marina is better. More isolated means less chance of innocent bystanders getting hurt if things go sideways. If things go sideways, my son doesn't have a father. Eva's voice cracked. You're asking me to let Marco walk into a trap. I'm asking you to trust that we know what we're doing. Trust. Eva laughed bitterly. Trust is what got me 8 years of raising a child alone. Trust is what got me paying protection money to thugs. Trust is what got my son a target on his back. She stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. I should have left the moment Marco showed up. Should have grabbed Luca and disappeared. Gone to California or Canada or... You wouldn't have made it, Marco said quietly. Eva stopped. What? Rocco would have found you. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week. But eventually Marco moved toward her. These men, they don't just give up. They keep searching, keep digging until they get what they want. Running only buys time. It doesn't solve anything. And your plan does? Walking into a trap, getting yourself killed, leaving Luca without a father again. If I don't go, Rocco comes here. Tonight. Maybe with 2 men, maybe with 10. And Luca's in the next room, sleeping, when they kick down the door. Marco's voice was steady, but his eyes were fierce. Is that what you want? For our son to see that? To live through that? Eva's breath came in short gasps, tears streaming down her face. I don't want any of this. I just want us to be safe. I want Luca to grow up normal. I know, Marco touched her face gently, wiping away tears with his thumb. And after tonight he can. I promise. You can't promise that. Then let me try. Let me be the father I should have been 8 years ago. Let me protect you both. Eva closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. When she opened them again, something had shifted. The fear was still there, but beneath it was something harder. Something resolute. I'm coming with you, she said. Absolutely not. Listen to me. Eva grabbed his wrists, holding tight. You think I'm going to sit here in this apartment, waiting to hear if you're alive or dead? You think I'm going to let you walk away again without knowing if you're coming back? Eva, it's too dangerous. It's dangerous here too. You said it yourself. Rocco knows where we live. If your plan fails, he comes here anyway. At least if I'm with you, I can see what's happening. I can help. You're not trained for this. You don't know how to. I know how to survive, her voice was steel. I've been surviving for 8 years while you were hiding. I raised our son alone. I built a business from nothing. I paid off criminals and kept my head down and did whatever it took to keep Lucas safe. She stepped closer, her eyes blazing. Don't you dare tell me I'm not strong enough for this. Marco stared at her. This woman who'd loved him, lost him, and carried on anyway. Who'd given their son every advantage she could despite the odds stacked against her. She was right. She was so much stronger than he'd given her credit for. Okay, he said finally. But Lucas stays with someone we trust. Marie, Eva's mind was already working. The waitress from the diner. She's looked after Luca before. She won't ask questions. Alessio cleared his throat. Hate to interrupt, but if Eva's coming, we need to adjust the plan. Rocco's expecting Marco alone with Luca. If Eva shows up, then I tell him the truth, Eva said. That Luca's mother has every right to be there. That we make decisions about our son together. He won't like it. I don't care what he likes, Eva's jaw set. I'm done hiding. I'm done running. Those men have taken enough from us. She looked at Marco, and he saw the woman he'd fallen in love with, fierce, brave, and unwilling to back down. We end this tonight, she said. Together.
Marco nodded.
Together. The riverside marina looked like something out of a nightmare. Burned-out buildings cast jagged shadows across broken concrete. Rotting piers extended into black water, like skeletal fingers. The only light came from a single floodlight near Pier 7, creating a circle of harsh white illumination surrounded by darkness. Marco pulled his car to a stop 50 yards from the pier. Alessio was parked a quarter-mile back, recording equipment ready, watching through binoculars. Eva sat in the passenger seat, her hands clenched in her lap. Last chance to stay in the car, Marco said. Not happening. He checked his gun, loaded, safety off, and tucked it into his waistband. Stay behind me. Don't argue with him. Don't provoke him. Let me do the talking. Marco. Eva touched his arm. If this goes bad. It won't. But if it does, I need you to know, she swallowed hard. I never stopped loving you. Even when I hated you. Even when I thought you were dead. Marco cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. Soft, desperate, full of 8 years of longing and regret. When this is over, he said, we're starting fresh. Real fresh. No more secrets, no more running. Just us and Luca. Promise. I promise. They got out of the car. The night air was cold, smelling of salt water and decay. Their footsteps echoed on the concrete as they walked toward the pier. Rocco was already there, leaning against a black Escalade with 2 men flanking him. Both held pistols openly, not bothering to hide them. Marco? Rocco called out, spreading his arms wide. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality. His eyes slid to Eva. But I don't remember inviting the lady. She's Luca's mother, Marco said evenly. She has a right to be here. Sure. Mother's rights. Very progressive, Rocco pushed off the car, walking into the circle of light. Speaking of the kid, where is he? Safe. Rocco's smile disappeared. That wasn't the deal.
The deal's changed.
You're not getting Luca. Then we got a problem. Rocco gestured, and his men raised their weapons. See, I told my uncle I was bringing him a prize tonight. the son of Marco DeLuca, future of the family bloodline. I can't show up empty-handed. You're going to show up empty-handed anyway, Marco said. Because Sal Bernini already knows what you've been doing. Rocco's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? The skimming. The side deals. The 300,000 you stole from the Providence operation. Marco took a step forward. You think your uncle's stupid? You think he doesn't have accountants, auditors, people checking the books? You're bluffing. Am I? How about the warehouse in Newark? The one you're using to store stolen electronics? Or the judge you bribed in Atlantic City? Your uncle's going to love hearing about that 1 inch. Rocco's face flushed red. You don't know anything. I know everything. Marco's voice was cold. And so does Sal. In fact, he's probably wondering right now why his nephew is at an abandoned marina instead of handling family business. You're lying. Call him. Ask him yourself. Rocco pulled out his phone, his hands shaking slightly with rage. He dialed, keeping his eyes on Marco. The phone rang once.
Twice.
3 times. Uncle Sal? Yeah, it's me. Listen, I'm at the marina. And what? No, I didn't. His face went pale. Uncle Sal, I can explain. No, listen, I'm handling. He looked at the phone. The line was dead.
Marco smiled grimly.
He hung up on you, didn't he? Shut up. You're done, Rocco. Your uncle knows you're a thief. And when word gets out that you're planning to kidnap a child to save your own skin. Marco shook his head. They'll find you in a dozen pieces in the Pine Barrens. Rocco's gun came up, pointing at Marco's chest. You think you're smart? You think you won? I think you just admitted to planning a kidnapping. Marco gestured upward. Rocco's eyes followed the gesture and spotted the small drone hovering 200 feet above them, its camera light blinking red. Say hello to the FBI, Marco said. They've been recording everything. That was a lie. The drone was Alessio's, and the FBI wasn't watching. But Rocco didn't know that. You set me up, Rocco snarled. You set yourself up. I just gave you the rope. Rocco's finger tightened on the trigger. Then I got nothing to lose. You shoot me and federal agents swarm this place in 3 minutes. You'll never make it out. Maybe. But you'll be dead. Rocco. Eva's voice cut through the tension. It's over. You lost. Put the gun down and run while you still can. Rocco laughed, high and desperate. Run? Run where? You think your boyfriend left me anywhere to run? He burned every bridge I got. Then make a new bridge, Eva said. Disappear. Change your name. Start over. It's possible Marco did it. I'm not Marco. Rocco's gun swung toward Eva. I'm not the hero of the story. Marco moved without thinking, stepping in front of Eva, his own gun coming up. The crack of gunfire split the night. But it didn't come from Rocco's gun. It came from behind them. Rocco's men dropped, clutching their legs, screaming. Alessio emerged from the darkness, a rifle in his hands, calm and professional. Federal agents are actually coming now, Alessio called out. I made the call. You've got about 90 seconds. Rocco's gun shook. He was surrounded, outplayed, and out of time. It's over, Marco said quietly. Drop it. For a long moment, Rocco stood there, a man watching his entire life collapse. Then, he dropped the gun. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marco pulled Eva close, his heart hammering. You okay? Yeah, she looked up at him, eyes shining. We're okay. The FBI arrived in 4 black SUVs, flooding the marina with agents and floodlights. Jennifer Hawkins stepped out of the lead vehicle, a sharp woman in her 40s with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She surveyed the scene, Rocco on his knees with his hands behind his head, his 2 men zip-tied and bleeding, Marco and Eva standing together, and Alessio casually holding a rifle. Well, she said dryly, this is quite the welcome party. Marco stepped forward. Agent Hawkins. Special Prosecutor Hawkins, actually. And you must be Marco DeLuca. The dead man walking. She gestured to her agents. Secure the suspects. Read them their rights. I want everything documented. As the agents moved in, Hawkins turned back to Marco. Mr. Greco called me 3 hours ago. Said you might have something interesting for me. We do. Alessio handed her a flash drive. 8 years of financial records. Wire transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts. Everything the Bernini family has been hiding. Plus recordings from tonight. Extortion, kidnapping threats, assault. Hawkins examined the drive. And you're willing to testify? Both of us, Marco said, glancing at Alessio. Whatever it takes to put them away. That's a dangerous commitment. The Bernini organization has reach, even from prison. Which is why we need protection. Witness protection. For me, Eva, and our son. Hawkins studied them both. You understand what that means? New identities. New location. You can't contact anyone from your old lives. Ever. Eva squeezed Marco's hand. We understand.
Good.
Then we have a deal. Hawkins pocketed the flash drive. My agents will debrief you tonight. Tomorrow we start building the case. Within a week, we'll have warrants for Sal Bernini and 15 members of his organization. Marco felt tension drain from his shoulders. It was really happening. They were really getting out. There's one problem, Hawkins continued. Rocco made phone calls before he came here. To his cousin Vincent. Told him about your son. The tension came roaring back. What? Vincent Bernini isn't as stupid as Rocco. He won't come at you directly, not with the FBI involved. But he's smart enough to wait. Patient enough to watch. Hawkins's expression was grave. Your son is still in danger until we have everyone in custody. How long will that take? Could be days. Could be weeks. Depends on how fast they run. Eva's voice was tight with fear. So what do? We put you in protective custody. Tonight. All 3 of you, Hawkins signaled to an agent. Agent Morrison will take you to pick up your son, then escort you to a safe house. You'll stay there until we've rounded up everyone on our list. And if someone makes a move before then? Marco asked. Then they'll have to go through my agents. And trust me, Mr. DeLuca, they're very good at their jobs. They picked up Luca from Marie's house at 1:30 a.m. The boy was half asleep, confused about the strange people and the late hour. Eva carried him to the FBI van, whispering reassurances while he rubbed his eyes.
Mom?
What's happening?
Luca mumbled.
We're going on a little trip, baby. Everything's okay. Is Marco coming? Yeah. Champ Marco climbed in beside them. I'm right here. The safe house was 40 minutes away, a nondescript ranch home in a quiet suburb. 2 agents stood guard outside. 2 more were inside, checking windows and exits. They put Luca to bed in a small room with blue walls and a shelf of old children's books. He fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted and overwhelmed. Marco and Eva sat together in the kitchen, drinking coffee neither of them wanted, while Agent Morrison explained the protocols. You don't leave the house. You don't make phone calls. You don't contact anyone. Food will be delivered. If you need anything, you ask us first. Morrison was young but professional. This is temporary. A week, maybe less. But during that time, you follow the rules. Understood? They both nodded. Morrison left them alone. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional murmur of agents talking in the next room. We did it, Eva said softly. We actually did it. Not yet. Not until the Berninis are in custody. But we're close. Closer than I thought we'd ever get, she looked at him. You really think this is going to work? Witness protection? New lives.
Ido.
What if Luca hates it? What if he misses his friends, his school? Then we make new friends. Find a new school. Build something better. Marco took her hand. He's resilient, Eva. He gets that from you. She smiled faintly. He gets his stubbornness from you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marco's phone buzzed. A text from Alessio. Vincent Bernini just made bail. He's out. Marco showed Eva the message. Her face went white. Already? How is he already out?
Money.
Connections. Lawyers. Marco stood, his jaw tight. Morrison. The agent appeared in the doorway. What is it? Vincent Bernini made bail. He's out. Morrison swore under his breath and pulled out his radio. Command, this is Morrison. We need eyes on Vincent Bernini, immediately. Suspect is out on bail and considered a high-level threat to our witnesses. The radio crackled. Copy that. Dispatching surveillance now. Marco looked toward Luca's bedroom door. His son was sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger circling closer. No one gets to him, Marco said quietly. Whatever it takes. Morrison met his eyes. No one's getting through us, Mr. DeLuca. I promise. But promises, Marco had learned, were fragile things. And Vincent Bernini was just getting started. 3 hours later, Marco's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello, Marco. Vincent's voice was smooth, educated, nothing like his cousin's thuggish tone. I thought we should talk. Marco's hand tightened around the phone. How did you get this number?
Please.
You think the FBI is the only one with resources? Vincent chuckled softly. But relax. I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. I disagree. See, I've been doing some thinking. My cousin Rocco, God rest his stupid soul, he made this personal. That was his mistake.
Me?
I'm a businessman. And right now, business is bad. Marco walked into the hallway, away from Eva. Morrison followed, listening intently. The FBI has my uncle in custody, Vincent continued. They're freezing accounts, seizing assets, flipping soldiers. In 6 months, the Bernini organization will be a memory. I'm smart enough to see the writing on the wall. So you're calling to surrender? I'm calling to make a deal. You drop your testimony against me specifically. I was never directly involved in what Rocco did, and I disappear. Leave the country. You'll never hear from me again. And if I say no, then I make things difficult. Your son goes to Bellport Elementary, right? Room 3B. Mrs. Patterson's class. He sits in the 3rd row, next to a boy named Tyler. Vincent's voice remained pleasant. I'd hate for anything to happen to such a sweet kid. Marco's blood turned to ice. You son of a... I'm not threatening him. I'm simply pointing out that I could. That I have the resources, the connections, the reach. Even with FBI protection, even in witness protection, I can find you. I can wait years if I have to, he paused. Or you can make this easy. Let me walk away, and I let you live your life. Fair trade. Morrison was already on his radio, calling for backup, for agents to check the school. Marco's mind raced. Vincent was right. Men like him were patient. They could wait, plan, strike when least expected. The FBI could protect them for now, but eventually the protection would thin. Eventually, they'd be vulnerable. Unless Vincent was gone for good. I need 24 hours, Marco said. You have 12. I'll call back at noon tomorrow. Make the right choice, Marco. The line went dead. Morrison lowered his radio. We've got units heading to the school now. It's secure. But Mr. DeLuca, you can't seriously be considering. I'm not. Marco looked toward Luca's room. But Vincent's right about one thing. As long as he's out there, we're not safe. So, what do you want to do? I want to end this.
Permanently.
At 6 a.m., Jennifer Hawkins arrived at the safe house with a tablet and a grim expression. Vincent Bernini got on a plane to Toronto 4 hours ago, she said, showing them the security footage. We can't extradite him without cause, and technically, he hasn't committed any crimes we can prove yet. He threatened my son, Marco said. On a phone call with no recording. It's your word against his, and his lawyers will tie that up in court for years. Hawkins sat down heavily.
I'm sorry.
I know this isn't what you want to hear. Eva's voice was hollow. So he just gets away.
For now.
But here's the thing, Vincent's not stupid. He knows we're watching him. He knows that if he makes any move against you, we'll come down on him hard. So he's going to lay low, wait for the heat to die down, and then she trailed off. And then he comes after us, Marco finished. Maybe. Or maybe he really does disappear. lives the rest of his life in Canada or Europe or South America. Hawkins looked between them. Either way, you can't live your lives waiting for him to make a move. You need to move forward. Take the new identities. Build something he can't touch. And if he finds us anyway, then we deal with it when it happens. But Marco, Eva, you can't let fear control you. That's letting him win. 3 months later, a family moved into a small lakefront house in Greenville, Vermont. The man went by David Morrison. He had sandy brown hair, blue contact lenses, and a quiet demeanor. He opened a boat repair shop on the water, nothing fancy, just honest work fixing engines and restoring old sailboats. The woman was Sarah Morrison. She had lighter hair now, cut shorter, and she moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd left her past behind. She reopened her diner, smaller than the one in Bellport, but cozy. She served the best apple pie in 3 counties. Their son, Lucas, thrived. He joined the local soccer team, made friends, brought home good grades and terrible jokes. He still had his father's gray eyes, but now they sparkled with joy instead of fear. At night, David and Sarah would sit on their dock, watching the sunset paint the lake gold and orange. "Think Vincent's still looking?" Sarah asked one evening. "Maybe. Probably," David squeezed her hand. "But he's looking for Marco DeLuca, Eva Moretti, and Luca. Those people don't exist anymore." "Do you miss it? Being Marco?" "I miss parts of it. I miss the city sometimes. The energy," he looked at her. "But I don't miss being afraid. I don't miss looking over my shoulder." "Me neither." Lucas ran down from the house, his soccer ball under his arm.
"Dad, Mom,
"Can we go night fishing? Please." David smiled. "Sure, champ. Let me get the gear." As they loaded the boat, David teaching Lucas how to tie knots, Sarah packing snacks, a black sedan drove slowly past their house. David noticed it. His hand instinctively moved toward his waistband, where he no longer carried a gun. The sedan kept driving. Just a lost tourist. Nothing more. David exhaled slowly, forcing himself to relax. This was his life now. Their life. And he'd fight like hell to keep it. 6 months passed like a dream. Winter came to Greenville, blanketing the lake in snow and ice. The boat shop closed for the season, and David spent his days restoring a vintage Chris Craft in the garage, while Sarah's diner became the town's gathering place, warm, welcoming, filled with the smell of coffee and fresh-baked bread. Lucas turned 8 in January. They threw him a party at the diner with his entire soccer team. There were balloons, chocolate cake, and a pile of presents. He blew out his candles and made a wish, his gray eyes bright with happiness. That night, after the guests left and Lucas was asleep, David stood in the kitchen helping Sarah clean up. "He's happy," Sarah said, wiping down the counter. "Really happy. Did you see him today?" "I did," David smiled. "He's got your laugh. You know that. And your stubbornness." "Our stubbornness." Sarah set down her towel and looked at him. "David Morrison, are you getting sentimental on me?" "Maybe." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I've been thinking about us, about this life we've built, about how I don't want to waste another second of it." Sarah's breath caught. "What are you saying?" David reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her hands flew to her mouth. "I know we've been through hell," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "I know I left you once, and I know I can never make up for those 8 years. But Sarah, Eva, whoever we're supposed to be, I love you. I've always loved you. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band with a small diamond. Nothing flashy, but honest and real. "Will you marry me? For real this time? The right way?" Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "You idiot. You beautiful, wonderful idiot. Is that a yes?"
Yes.
"Yes, of course yes," she laughed through her tears. "I've been waiting 8 years for you to ask me that question." David slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, deep and full of promise and the future they'd fought so hard to claim. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah was smiling wider than he'd seen in years. "When?" she asked. "Whenever you want. Spring? Summer? Spring. By the lake. Just us and Lucas and maybe a few friends from town." Perfect. They held each other in the quiet kitchen, the outside world distant and harmless. Spring arrived with wildflowers and warm breezes. On a golden Saturday in April, they stood on the dock behind their house, David in a simple gray suit, Sarah in a white sundress, and Lucas standing between them as their ring bearer, grinning so wide it looked like his face might split. The town minister performed the ceremony, while a dozen neighbors watched from folding chairs on the lawn. It was small, intimate, perfect. When the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," David cupped Sarah's face and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. Lucas cheered. The neighbors applauded. And for the first time in 8 years, Marco DeLuca, now David Morrison, felt completely, entirely free. That evening, after the guests left and the sun began to set, the three of them walked down to the dock. Lucas ran ahead, chasing fireflies. David and Sarah followed hand in hand, their shoes off, their feet bare on the warm wood. "I have something to tell you," Sarah said quietly. David looked at her. "What is it?" She smiled, nervous and excited.
"I'm pregnant."
David stopped walking. "You're what?" "I found out last week. I wanted to tell you, but then the wedding planning got crazy and I thought I'd wait until tonight. Until it was just us." She touched his face. "We're having a baby, David." David's eyes filled with tears. He pulled her close, laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby. Are you happy?" "Happy?" "Sarah, He couldn't find the words. He just held her, overwhelmed by the impossible beauty of this moment. Lucas ran back to them, breathless.
"Dad."
"Mom, come see the fireflies. There's like 1,000,000 of them." David wiped his eyes and grinned. "Lead the way, champ." They followed Lucas to the end of the dock where the fireflies danced in the twilight, tiny stars flickering on and off, creating constellations in the warm air. Lucas stood between his parents, one small hand in each of theirs. "This is the best day ever," Lucas said simply. David looked down at his son, this miracle he'd almost never known, and then at Sarah, the woman who'd given him a second chance at everything. "Yeah," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "It really is." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "We did it. We actually did it. We did." "Do you ever think about them? The Berninis? Vincent?" "Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep," David squeezed her hand. "But then I look at what we have, this house, this town, this life, and I know they can't touch us. Not anymore. What if they find us? Then we'll deal with it.
Together."
As a family, he kissed her temple. "But I don't think they will. We're ghosts now. And ghosts can't be caught." Lucas tugged on David's hand. "Dad, can we start again? The right way? The permanent way?" David's heart swelled. Those were the same words he'd used in his proposal. He looked at Sarah. She smiled, her eyes shining with tears and joy. "We already did, champ," David said, pulling both of them close. "We already did." They stood together on the dock, Marco, Eva, and Luca reborn as David, Sarah, and Lucas, watching the sun set on their old lives and rise on everything they'd fought to become. A real family. Finally. Forever.